man. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
No, you're all right? Everything okay?
Yeah, well, yeah, just been a bit of a weird time. Like just before Christmas, well, a week before Christmas, lost my job because the company I worked for, big media company, went through.
Sorry.
The car in the garage, COVID. It's just all been a bit chaotic, shall we say? So making sure I've got something in the diary every morning. Get up and I see you put something up like Win the Morning, wasn't it? So
Yeah, I found them. It's like it's happened to me once really where I got a sack in Llanelli, and you wake up and you think, ooh, it's a bit tough, but then
yeah,
you just got to try and, as you say, control what you can control and get out there and that's what somebody told me that ages ago. Actually, Win the Morning, I quite liked it, and I am a morning person. Not everybody is a morning person, are they? But I love it. Get up and I get up at a certain time and do some reading or do some whatever. Find a task to do. Then I go to the gym or then I go walking and down where we live, mate. I don't know where are you? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Cardiff. I am.
All right, okay. Well, there's plenty of, it's lovely going down the bay or whatever. We go down the beach, mate, to walk in Llanelli. It's Pembray's amazing, So it's just trying to be purposeful with your day, mate. Sometimes when you haven't got that structure of a job to go to, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been like that. I've been like, today I put a post on LinkedIn and I've already got like 4 or 5 meetings now next week. Just coffees with people that I know or have met once that have said we might have something. Let's meet up. So my background's all in like commercial and partnerships, business development and stuff. So, there's plenty of jobs out there, but I'm 36. So I want to find the next one now where it's like, I want to stay there for a bit,
Let me tell you now, find not the next one, the right one.
Yeah, exactly. That's
the
why
right
I'm not
one.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence, mate, and find people that have got similar values. But find people who got, as I say, similar values, similar principles, and you can be, and I've done that, mate. I found 1 or 2 coaching jobs. In hindsight, I wouldn't go anywhere near. Most probably they wouldn't go anywhere near me either. But it's finding. Is finding the right cultural fit really, and I did with Leeds when I finished playing. I think it was a bit of a fluke perhaps, but I did find that it was a good fit and it lasted for 10 years. So yeah, that's the most important. Is finding the right one, not the next one, if that makes sense.
No, that's why I've not rushed to anything. I got made redundant on the 23rd. I tried to start the agency back up with an investor, and then when push comes to shove, the investor was a waste of time and just let me down, and I had to tell 20 people I couldn't save the business, and that was just all through Christmas and New Year, which is just a bit of a waste of family time as well. I've neglected that a bit, so I've taken a week or 2 now, well, a week really, just to chill out a bit of time with the family, and now I'm actively back out there again, meeting people, and like I've worked with all the sports teams. I used to work for Capital FM for 7.5 years. So my network is, you'll know loads of the people that I know in terms of loads of my mates, professional players. Even in England, like Rob Webber and people, George Cruz, people like that. Dom Day, one of my best mates. So
top man. Gee, give him his bloody debut in Llanelli, Dom. Jesus.
Yeah.
He's done well, mate. It's good to see what he's done, to be fair. He didn't have the easiest of starts, but fair play to him. He stuck at it and he's bloody done well for himself. Fair play to him. He's a lovely bloke, Dom.
Yeah, top bloke. Like some career travel the world. He's had his caps, played in a World Cup, and now he's doing this with George with 4-5 CBD. Like fair play to him. He's doing class.
Yeah, he's the top man. Give him my regards. He's a good guy, Dom. I like him a lot. He's good.
Yeah. I'll speak to him after this now. Hey, look, with this, appreciate you coming on. So
no, pleasure. All right, mate. Let's go, Mick.
Lovely stuff. Episode 110, Catflap Chats. Visit catflapchats.com. You can find the website, our back catalogue, our partners, our merch. Big up Tiny Rebel. So that, Tiny Rebel, I don't know if you've heard of Tiny Rebel. They're down in Newport. It's like IPAs and all that, different beers. They give me a couple of cans every episode. So before COVID, we were doing this in person. I'd turn up with a load of cans. We'd have a couple, and then off we go. But
brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm unemployed, but I'm not going to fall into the trap of drinking every day. So I'm gonna skip them for now, and I'm going to stay on the waters. But look,
good man.
I'd like to have Phil Davies what was it, 46 caps for Wales across the 80s and 90s.
Didn't
Coached all over the world. Leeds, Scarlets, Cardiff, the Blues, Wales 20s, Worcester, Namibia at the World Cups and other competitions. I've probably missed one or two, but I'm excited. We know a few of the same people. I'm excited to see where this one goes today. So thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. What's news? What keeps you up at night? What keeps you going? What's going on?
Pleasure, Mick. Well, nothing keeps me up at night. I'm a good sleeper. I don't have. I could sleep. I fall asleep in a bed of nails. I haven't got a problem with that. But no, it's good Christmas. A lot of time at home. Been doing a bit of travelling back and forth to Leeds, spending about 10, 12 hours in a car a week with my mate Wayne Proctor, who's been doing the conditioning up there with me. But yeah, it's been good. I went back to Leeds after the 2019 World Cup. They were having a tough time. They were looking at resetting the club, as we've called it, and 20 months been back and forth doing lots of stuff on Zoom and resetting the club. So we laid the foundations now. So we've got good coaching there, and we got good medical backup, good analysis, monitoring for the players. So we try to set up a real sustainable operation to move forward with, both on and off the field. And we're in National League One at the moment, struggling a bit for a few results, but boys are working their socks off. And yeah, it's we brought John Callard in, my ex-partner in crime, back in the early 2000s when we were up there, when we were playing in Europe and playing in a Power Gen Cup final, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So he's 20 minutes away in Harrogate, and I'm 5 hours away. So yeah, so just he's going to take on the field now, and then I'll do off the field, and we'll try and move the club forward again. We've got ambition, but we can only spend what we earn. So it's a bit of a different model that we have now to what we had 20 odd years ago, but still the ambition and the passion for rugby and Leeds is there. So yeah, we'll crack on, but John will be more hands-on now, and I'll be sort of hands-off, if you like, but still helping where I can,
What's the league like then? Because everyone obviously watches the Premiership or even like the United Rugby Championship here in Wales. I knew the Championship quite well when Plymouth were in there, but they're obviously, that's my neck of the woods, but they're obviously down in your league now in National One. Like, what is the league like? What's the standard like? Good youngsters coming through and good standard?
Yeah, do you know what, right? It's been interesting. I've coached, obviously in the pro leagues, in the Celtic leagues. It's the United Rugby Championship now. Coached in the Premiership with Cardiff, with Jarve and Stoney, Howard Stone, when we won it back in 2000 and something. 8, I think it was. It was, and with some great boys there, played for Cardiff, RFC at the time, and coaching the Championship in Wales with RGC when we got them promoted from, the North Wales region. Well, it should be a region in my view, but anyway. And done the same in England, being in National One, the Championship and the Premiership. So it's a good league. What I've liked about it, I've seen people, right, that flip it, who were playing, like in Sale, Neil Briggs, for example, was a hook of a Sale when I was at Leeds in the first period, where he was a young fella coming through. Briggs, he's coaching now in Sale, and then you got Matt Keynes, who played the Saracens and Sale, coaching Caldy, Richie Williams, a Welsh fella, old Welsh pal of mine, coaching Cambridge. And there are some, good young coaches, great brands of rugby. Defence is optional at times. high scoring games, but it's a really good league. John Inverdale is the chairman now of the national leagues in England. Amazing, obviously broadcasting background, one of the best in his field, and he's taken over as chairman. They got a National League One show, and it's a good league, mate. It's entertaining. It's a great place for young players to develop, and some old stalwarts who are going around teaching the dark arts, so to speak. So it's a great league, mate. It's a great league, and we're battling in it. I think we've won 4 games out of 13. But, when COVID hit, Leeds ended up with 10 players. Yeah. So, we've only been into battle again, shall we say, 13 times. So, and they're all boys who are living in Leeds through study or work, So it's a real embryonic project, but the league is fantastic. Honestly, it's a really good league. There's lots of entertainment, and sometimes lots of high-scoring, close games. So it's good. It's good.
Do you find that, like, obviously having coached both sides of the bridge and then like internationally and that, like, are you finding that it's a bit more enjoyable not being in the Welsh bubble as such at times? Because it can be a bit. Wales is a small country and everyone knows each other, and it's so ingrained it gets a bit on top sometimes. Being out of that and being in England, do you feel that you can have a bit more fun with it and there's a bit less pressure, or how does that work?
I don't know about fun. It's just different. Like, listen, coaching the Scarlets and coaching it's Cardiff Rugby now.
Yeah,
That's different, mate. Rugby in East Wales is different to rugby in West Wales. You know, maybe West Wales is a bit more laissez-faire, a bit more French style. Where, you know, we go up the east, you know, into Cardiff and Newport and up the valleys, and it's poof, punch you in the nose. It's a bit more forward orientated in ways, although there's some brilliant, you know, backs all over Wales, but that's how I would explain East and West Wales rugby is different. Now you go into Yorkshire, and Yorkshire is very similar to Wales. Great people, like a beer, like a sing-song. You know, the Yorkshireman, boof, you know, the Yorkshire grit, they'll tell it to you straight, you know. And it's great fun. And then, you know, I've coached in France a little bit with Richard Hill. That's another challenge. My pidgin French, and try to coach in Rouen when Hilly was there. We got promoted from Federal, won the Pro de Deux. Then the World Cup, going to Africa. It's just all about understanding local culture, mate, local context, and having respect for that. And, you know, I love, you know, coaching in Wales because, you know, you can be amazing one day and you could be a clown the next day. So it's like, so, but that's part of the passion, and that's what I love. You know, the passion. All the players have been a coach. The passion for the game is amazing, but it's about learning about people and how they think. And in Africa, I thought it was brilliant. Every idea that was cut up, they were going, "Oh, Phil, that's great." But then about 6 weeks later, they hadn't done bugger all about it. So I think, hang on. So it's then learning about the Afrikaner mentality, the German mentality, because Namibia's got huge German influence with the beer. All beer in Namibia is brewed under German law. No additives, no preservatives. So you can have a right session and be pretty 10 sheets to win, but get up the following day with no hangover. So that's amazing. So
is it Windhoek? Is that the beer?
Yeah, it's the beer, yeah. It's all brewed under German law. So it's about learning about the country and about the you know, what is practical and what is probable. Because, you know, anything's possible, I believe. You know, I'm a half glass full bloke. Yeah. But when you go to different countries, you've got to respect the culture. You've got to understand how they think and all that sort of stuff. So all that stuff has been hugely rewarding, mate. You know, like we mentioned a couple of people we know earlier. Like going back in the day, knowing what I know now, you may have done things a bit differently, you know, and that's experience gives you a lot of learning, mate, you know, but wisdom is understanding, you know, your mistakes and learning from your mistakes and making sure you don't repeat them again. So, you know, experience is making sure you understand and you reflect on those experiences, and it's respect as much as anything else, Mick. You know, it's respecting, you know, the people that you're working with and the culture that they're coming from. So it's been enjoyable wherever I've been, mate. You know, sometimes you think, oh, that's a bit of a tough one. Like being sacked by the Scarlets broke my heart, mate, big time. You know, but it happened for a reason, and for a couple of years it was like a broken record. But you know about it. But when you get over it and you look in the mirror and you think, right, what was my part in that then? And you learn and you move forward and you respect that people have got to make a decision. And the one thing I think I've done over the years, I've always retained my integrity, good, bad, or indifferent experiences. And that's important for the game, I think, you know, that you can't always, you know, spill your personal grievances in public. You've got to suck it up and learn from it and move on, you know?
Yeah, I completely, that's the same in every walk of life. Like sometimes you have just got to keep your mouth shut and just let it go. Like, I mean, I find that tough sometimes. I'm a bit passionate, heart on the sleeve, and I sometimes my tongue just lets it go before I realise, shit, probably shouldn't have said that quite in that way. But I suppose you got to live with those consequences then as well.
Well, yeah, you have, and you learn. Like I said earlier, the key to
Yeah,
it, the experience is converting our experience into learning equals wisdom, I think, and
yeah,
then you don't make the same mistakes again. You know, I've been lucky. I've had some amazing people who've helped me along the way. And, you know, my wife, my daughters, and my family have been amazing, and some good mates and some good mentors. You know, who've been, you know, Kevin Bowring, you know, has been an amazing mentor in terms of teaching and learning about coaching. And, you know, we were there was a group of us, myself, Stuart Lancaster, Richard Hill, the ex-England scrum half, Nigel Redman, the ex-Bath England
yeah,
lock. And we were the first, Joe Lydon, we were the first group of level 5 coaches in England back in 2006. We did a 18-month program at Loughborough University, Ashridge Business College. It was amazing. And to have that type of support, and, you know, Kev's always been amazing, you know, pick the phone up and he's always good for an opinion. What do you think of that? Well, maybe you should have done it a bit different, or maybe that's quite innovative. You know, Eddie Jones is a real interesting bloke to talk to.
yeah,
You know, Steve Hansen, his time in Wales, you know, Gatlin, obviously, Gareth Jenkins, my coach in Llanelli.
yeah,
Been some amazing people who are highly, highly thought of and qualified to talk about the game of rugby too, you know. So it's very,
yeah.
very fortunate in that respect, mate, you know.
Do you like 25 years now coaching at the like elite level, and like obviously you know, was it 15 odd years playing at was this Llanelli and internationally, and do you still get the same buzz for it? And like, are you ever on the training ground or at the club, whatever, and just something new happened, just go, fuck me, I haven't ever experienced that before? Like, do you still get those little bits now and again?
I do actually. I don't know. A lot of people have asked me, right, since 1996 when I turned professional to coach.
Yeah,
I've coached, and some people have looked at me and said to me sometimes, really, you know, why would you go and coach at championship level in Wales, or why would you go and coach Premiership, or why would you go and do this, or why would you go and do that when you've been at, you know, I've sat in a stadium in Tokyo with 80,000 people, and I've, you know, sat in a stadium in Leicester with Llanelli, the Scarlets, you know, with 40,000 playing in the semi-final of a Heineken Cup, or playing with the Blues out in Marseille, you know, against Toulon, for example.
yeah,
It's amazing, but I just love coaching, mate. It's as simple as that. And you know, I remember in Namibia one day, the boy said, "Oh, Phil, we'll have to train a bit early because we got to be in work at 7:30." And I went, "Oh, okay." So we ended up doing a scrummaging session at 5:30 in the morning, right? And I'm like, "Yes, I'm in awe of these blokes now because they're actually running around and scrummaging, and I'm getting them out to the scrum, moving quickly because we had to increase the speed of reaction, if you like, and movement with the group." You know, and I remember coaching the Scarlets at one point before we played Toulouse in the Heineken Cup group stages, and Nigel Owens was reffing a training session, and Rob Jones, Moriarty, and myself, after 25 minutes, we said, "Listen, we're going to stop this." It was just like, I was in awe of the players. I was thinking, wow, the technical efficiency and the way that we were training, the intensity of the training. And we were doing small blocks of contact back in those days, 2 or 3 minute blocks of 2 minutes, Nigel rep. And I was like, wow. And, you know, even now in Leeds, you know, it's the way the boys train at times is belting down with rain, but they're still, you know, training well, if you like, and doing some interesting things. And you think, fair play. And that's just, I love it. I love all that stuff, mate. It's just, you know, even watching boys that I coached in Wales under 20 now coming through and playing, or we mentioned a few earlier.
yeah,
You know, it just gives me real, I know it sounds a bit crazy, perhaps real joy watching those boys succeeding. You know, like you said about Ellis earlier, you know, it's so good to see that lad playing again after his knee injury or whatever. And he's a wonderful human being, but he's a hell of a rugby player. His brain is... His perception of the game is just amazing. You know, he's one of the better strategic rugby thinkers. I know it might sound a bit philosophical, but he's up there with Mellon, you know, the way he thinks about the game. And you know, he's the most intelligent rugby player I've ever coached, Gethin Jenkins. Unbelievable.
Is he?
2 or 3 phases in front of everybody else. You know, it's just unbelievable. Just he'll be a brilliant, brilliant coach in time. He will be. He'll change. I think he's just phenomenal. I know he won't like that Gethings. He didn't like, he didn't say too much, but I admire him, like Warby and, Stephen and Dwayne and Easterby. A lot of these boys have had the privilege to coach. You learn so much of them, and hopefully along the way you might teach them a few things as well, So it's been brilliant, all that stuff, Mick,
Class. I absolutely love the passion. I can hear it as you're talking, like the enthusiasm you've still got, like you're a young nipper running around.
Yeah, well, I'm in my 50s now. I can't believe I'm 50 odd, but there we are. I'm still maybe as dull as ever. But anyway, I love it. No, it's good. It's good.
Class. What was it like then for you? Like you're coaching now in an environment and an era over the last sort of 25 years that's been ever changing, but would have been completely different to what it was like when you were a player. What was, for people listening now, like what was it like when you were a player, and what are the things about that you loved and you missed, both at like club level, Clethley, and then obviously international level of Wales as well?
The game is still the same. I think, the fabric of the values of the game, of like teamwork, camaraderie, and fun, and all that sort of stuff. I think that is, I think the values of rugby, they talk about respect, integrity, all the values that you'll see from World Rugby or, the RFU, the WRU, obviously. I think a lot of those things underpin our sport. Sometimes maybe they're more, prominent than other times, but generally I think that's what's set rugby union apart over the years. I believe in when we played and even now when we've coached, we remember talking in Leeds is leave your ego by the gates. When you walk the gate, you want ego in a positive way, because it's a tough old job when you get out there and play in front of 80,000 and you're playing a test match level, flipping it. It's a tough old gig. But, but I think the values, have underpinned the game then and are still there now. And, the enthusiasm and passion, we had and the crowds we had, that's what I miss in Wales at times. When you used to go to Stradey Park or Rodney Parade or Sardis Road, you're going to have a tough old time, particularly if the Chiefs charging about up there. You're going to have a tough time. But it was amazing, mate. The passion. I remember playing at St Helens in Swansea against Clethley Swansea at 16,000 people there on a Wednesday night. So the one thing I did miss when I came back to Wales at times, not all the time, but was the crowds, and the passion that people had then. Not that they haven't got the passion for rugby now, they obviously have, but you don't see the, perhaps the sellout crowds nowadays as you perhaps did, or as consistently nowadays as you did then. But it's a different landscape, mate. It's professional. Everybody talks about it's a business. I agree, but there's a lot of other things to that you've got to win the hearts and minds of people in Wales, and I'm not sure we've actually got that connection right yet within the regional game. That it is there. But I think, I think we're still searching for an identity as a regional game, possibly. Other people would argue with me on that, I'm sure. But those are the little things, mate, the passion, the enthusiasm. It's all there now. As I say, the values are still there. The enthusiasm and passion is there. But I'm not sure it's as consistently there now as it was then. But again, I didn't play in a professional era. And I admire these boys who do now. And I admire the supporters, the sponsors, the people who put their hard-earned money into coming and watching and supporting the team. So I just think it's great that we got 4 professional teams in Wales. I'd love us to have more, but economically, perhaps we can't cope with that, So those are.
I suppose there's far much more for people, kids, parents to do now than there would have been back then. Back then, it was probably a bit more, I would guess, and I don't know this, but I would guess it would be a bit more family and you go along together and it's a day out together. And now it's, sons doing this, daughters doing that, Spotify, Netflix, YouTube, PlayStation, football, netball, whatever it might be. And also, not everyone does agree with the regions. And this isn't a debate for that. That's for other people to worry about. But I suppose it's just a bit harder because, people's focus nowadays is taken elsewhere. And it feels like, as I've lived there since 2004, but it feels like Wales rugby at the moment is very much Team Wales and then the regions. And I think when you look across the bridge, it's club worry about the clubs and their players, and then it's England or whatever international team they play for, if that makes sense, because they're the ones putting the money in. So I suppose it's hard to fight in that landscape at times.
Yeah, it's just finding, where you are in it all, isn't it? And, I think the thing when we were playing, it was football. I'm not saying it's as black and white as this, but when we were playing, it was football and rugby in the summer, and it was cricket in the winter. It was cricket in the summer. Three sports, arguably. We didn't have iPads, we didn't have iPhones. So the inspiration for the younger element around Llanelli, for example, were the players. Whether they're playing for the Reds, football in Stevenheath, or were they playing cricket in the summer, or whatever it might have been. Phil Bennett used to play for Vale cricket in the summer, and he's playing for Llanelli. He's a superstar and thing. So there was far less areas and activities to go at, and you could provide inspiration that way. Now is, how do you keep rugby relevant? How do you inspire the next generations when they got Xboxes, they got gaming, these gaming games and all the rest of it? And I don't know that, but you know what I mean? There's so many different things that young people can get involved in now, and different sports. What I do like about rugby now is how inclusive it's been with everyone. We've got the recent 12 of the girls getting, of the women getting contracts for Welsh rugby is awesome. Rugby in the Olympics, women's and men's sevens in the Olympics, rugby in the Olympics, unbelievable. And I love the way the women's game is growing and developing. It's like my eldest daughter, she used to go and train with Leeds United under 12s when we were living in Leeds, and she loved the sport. But I wish rugby had been as prominent for her then as it is now. She might have been not a bad player, not a bad chip off the old block type of thing, but so I love the way the game is growing. Medically, how we're trying to, the concussion side of it. I just love the fact that we're trying to improve, we're trying to get better. And I've always felt the rugby union medically have always tried to be the best they can be, or be as far advanced at any one particular time in history as you can be. And I love the fact that Pops is pushing head for change like he is, and all that stuff. And I know what World Rugby are doing, in the background to try and help. Nobody's perfect, and you don't always get the timing of things right, or don't always get but as long as the intention is there to support and to help and to change and to inspire, that's all you can ask for, I think, Mick, And I think the regions try that, the WRU try it. Everybody tries to, hopefully the intention is to be the best that you can be, and try and provide the best opportunity that you can, And look, we've got the best stadium in the world, So, for example, we got one of the best teams in the world, and it's how everybody, rising tides sort of, move all ships, or whatever the saying is, and that's all you can ask for, isn't it? Is how you can, keep everybody growing and keep everybody inspired, and that's all you can ask for, as long as that intention is pure, and the passion and enthusiasm to do that. That's all I think you can ask for, I think,
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned there about chip off the old block. So what were you like as a player then? What was playing with and against Phil Davies like?
I think when I was passionate, right, and I knew that I prepared well, I could be, a world-class rugby player. I had good hands, loved playing, loved the physical aspect of the game as well. Yeah. But there are other times when I'm emotional and I'm a bit distracted and I'm shouting and bawling like a madman. I wasn't very good, and I could be. I think I wouldn't have had all those caps I had in our day if I wasn't consistent, obviously. But when I look back, I used to suffer sometimes from a bit of. I think it's imposter syndrome, people call it now. The feeling of not being maybe good enough, and a little bit of, I'd always be, if I'd have a tough period, I'd try and seek assurance of others rather than self-assurance and all those type of things. So it was learning, and there were times where, I could be really good, and there were times where I could be bang average, to be honest, Mick. But I think overall, I wasn't I was a good footballer. I loved the physical aspect. I liked training. There'd be aspects at times in my career where I wasn't as fit as I knew I should have been.
Yeah.
But, overall, I got to learn a lot about myself, and I rowed my own boat at times. I didn't have I had a good role model in the village, Morris Davies, God bless him. He's passed away now, but he's my first ever coach and my school teacher. But, my family background, my dad, my granddad, whatever, although my granddad was very encouraging, as was my dad, we didn't have a network in the rugby circles, if you like. So I was very much rowing my own boat in that respect. Gareth Jenkins and Alan Lewis were great mentors for me at Llanelli at times. But sometimes my emotion would pile over, and the kettle would boil a bit too. It would boil a bit too much. But other times I controlled it and managed it. So I think over my rugby career, playing and coaching, I've learnt. And I've learned how to manage myself and learned how to try to get the best out of myself, and then you can get the best out of other people, and I'm very much a people-centered coach, if you like, and a development-driven coach and a competition-supportive type of coach. I'd always be interested in the individual. I'd always want to see them develop, and I'd always want to see them do well in a competition. So I think I'm quite proud of that fact. And as I am as a player, I think I did my best.
Yeah. You're quite successful. You won a few bits. I was reading earlier. Yeah. A couple of Five Nation wins, Premiership win with Catflap, WRU Cup.
Yeah.
You had your debut with Jiffy, didn't you?
Yeah, as it happened, right, I was the only new cap, Kevin Hopkins and I, and then Gareth Davies retired, and then Jonathan got the call up over Malcolm Dacey, who was a good player in his own right. Yeah, look, I was captain of Llanelli for 6 years, mate. I did it 5 years on a bounce, and we went to 7 cup finals, and Rupert was captain. I gave up the captaincy the year before we played Australia. Rupert was captain, I was vice captain. So to have followed, in the footsteps of greats like Derek Cornell and Phil Bennett and Ray Gravel and all those, amazing Llanelli people, to have done what I did at Llanelli, played, I think, nearly 400 games for them, and, it's bizarre. It's just, I feel hugely privileged and proud of that fact, because, what I remember when I started playing with Llanelli, I remembered, about history and heritage or whatever. When I started playing for Wales, I learned about responsibility, and I learned about, like, when you stand on that, pitch, the old National Stadium as it was there, when you got those 3 feathers in your chest and you start singing the anthem and you start looking around, you think, flipping heck, this is something special about all of this. And when you used to run out to Straddy Park and to full crowds, when we played Australia, played the All Blacks, played big matches against Swansea, Pontypridd, you think, flipping heck, it's privileged position, and to be involved in a game like that is incredible. And but it's been an interesting journey in that regard, mate. But I feel so lucky to have been able to do all of that. It's amazing, really.
Do you remember your debut for Wales, and did you have an initiation or anything like that at all after?
Well, with a few beers, I remember a couple of things. Bill Hardyman, who was a groundsman at the old National Stadium, used to have a plan of slowly but surely opening the tunnel doors. The crowd got, as the ground filled up. And I remember the noise that day was, I had to go in the toilet and have a tear or two, because I just couldn't believe that I was doing that. Then Bill gave me the match ball afterwards, all signed, which was amazing. And then Terry Holmes I remember poking Nigel Melville, the opposition scrum half, was a Yorkshireman. Actually, I've got to know it was accidental. So, but Terry Holmes gave me his jersey. He swapped his jersey with Nigel, and I had an English jersey, but he allowed me to keep my Welsh jersey. So I'm not sure that he gave me the jersey for poking Nigel in the eye or because it was my first cap. But no, those little things, mate. Terry Holmes was a flipping legend. Amazing to have played rugby with him. Like with Bob Norster as well. And people, John Perkins, Ian Eidman, all those blokes. Were. It was just it was amazing to play. And those little things, like I still got the ball now. It's in my dad's house. The signatures are a bit worn now, but I've still got the ball. I've still got my first shirt and got my cap. So those are, they're amazing, really, mate. Brilliant.
I didn't read this, so forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I didn't see anything around like a Lions tour or anything. Were you close with that at all? I did
in 1989. I wasn't playing well enough in 93. I dislocated my elbow. I had a rib. I just wasn't performing, so I didn't deserve to go on that. But in 89, I was gutted I didn't get selected. But I think I was on standby, if I remember rightly, to go to Australia. I didn't go. But then I got picked, and the Lions played France that year in 1989. I had a lovely letter off Bob Whale, who was the chairman of the Lions at the time. He was, and he's passed on now, unfortunately. But they wrote me a letter. The Lions played France in a bicentennial or centennial match.
Yeah.
And I was
Rob Jones playing that.
He did, and Rob Andrew was captain, and I was selected as vice captain and number 8 to play. And it was basically a Lions test team from Australia. I had a lovely letter of Bob, sort of articulating about the tour in Australia, which was very successful. But so I got selected, but then I couldn't play. I was gutted. I was injured, so I didn't go. So that was my Lions sort of experience, and it's only years later, really, that that's one disappointment that I didn't tick off. I played for the Barbars against the All Blacks at Twickenham, and where we lost 1916, and we were about winning. I played against England, and so it was just one thing. When I look back over, as I got older, I think that would have been lovely, because I got such a respect for the Lions concept and the people who have done that. Or been on those journeys, and that was the only thing. But in the beginning, mate, I just wanted to wear 2 red jerseys, which was Wales and Llanelli, and that was it. So I did a fair bit there, but it's not, it's a little bit of a disappointment that I didn't achieve that, really. When I was capable of doing it, I perhaps didn't get selected, or when I was selected, I was bloody injured. So but that's how it goes. It's one of those things. There's plenty of people worn them and worn the shirt with distinction and coached with distinction as well. So, good on them.
Yeah, definitely. Because you finished then in 95, you went straight into coaching with Leeds then in 96. Like, having that coaching, did that make the transition from not playing easier? Because back then there wasn't really things like mental health. You see players now in football, rugby or whatever, they finish playing and that's their identity, and they get a bit stuck and they don't know, not every player, but they don't know what to do, and they get a bit stuck and they can go downhill. You've gone straight into the coaching. Did that help with the transition, and you were able to, still keep your boots on, still have a bit of a mess around with the boys, albeit in a different way now?
Yeah, it's a great question, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. When I told my wife and daughters, they were 6 and 8 at the time, we were going to Yorkshire, she looked at me as if I had, let alone 2 heads, 6 heads. But I just said, look, and I tell you what, right? I had a conversation with he might not remember it, but with Alan Phillips, with Thumper, and it was after a Cardiff and Llanelli game. And he said, are you going to play much longer against Group of... Anyway, we were talking, and he was coaching Cardiff. He'd been captain of Cardiff, as you said. And he said, look, Phil, whatever you do, my advice, he said, if you're going to go into coaching, don't coach a team you just played for. I can't remember the exact words now, because it was 20-odd bloody years ago, but it had a real profound effect. And then when Leeds spoke to me, it was Colin Stevens had gone up as a player coach. And when Leeds spoke to me about it, I just drove up there. I had an opportunity to go to Harlequins, actually. Rob Jones and I we went and met Dick Best up in London.
Yeah.
And we had a 2-year contract put in front of us. But I thought, do you know what? My playing career, I was struggling a bit with some injuries. And I thought, I got less in front of me as a player than I have as a coach. And I just drove up to London. Dick Best was amazing. A huge respect for him. England coach, Lions coach, whatever. But it didn't feel right. Then I drove up to Yorkshire. I'd never been to Leeds before in my life. And went up there and just drove in. And I don't know, I had a feeling, like I said to you earlier, it's the right job, not the next job.
Yeah.
I had a feeling, went up there, and we were there for 10 years. And we went from the 4th division into the Premiership. And it was just an amazing journey. And, the kids went to school there. They grew up there, really. We left when my eldest was 18 and my youngest was 16. And we just made some friends for life up there. Was able to play at Headingley Stadium, which is just an incredible place to play. Same history as the Arms Park, same history as Stradey Park, Just an amazing place. And you've got cricket as well as Rugby League and Rugby Union. So just so privileged to be part of that. And I got to know, about being a Yorkshireman, what being a Yorkshireman or being a Leeds lad was all about. So and Leeds United, the passion for Leeds United is just off the scale, mate. Flipping heck. I think, same as being a Cardiff City supporter, being a Swan supporter. I'm a Swan supporter because I live in West Wales, but I'm also a Cardiff City supporter because, we were in the same building as Cardiff City when I was Blues coach, so I have a huge affinity with them as well. So, I mean, my life has been so enriched by just being involved in sport and meeting some incredible people, mate.
They build them differently up in Yorkshire. I remember being in sixth form, played a tournament up there. I think it was like a tens tournament when I was 18, and we were in a half-decent school. Went up there, we played against, I think it was the Leeds Rhinos Academy. It was a mix of like the Leeds Rhinos and like the Leeds Tights Academy in a schools tournament or something. They were fucking huge and class. Yeah. Like, they battered us.
Yeah. They call it the Yorkshire grit, they do. Like, when you coach, right, the one thing I've learned from Gareth Jenkins a lot, Gareth was always on about, we're representing Llanelli, we're representing the town, how important it is, steel working down here and et cetera, heavy industry, then not so much in latter years. And you've got to try, as a coach and as a player, but as a coach, as a leader, you've got to try and manufacture. You've got to try and grow a team that represents the locality and the qualities that people understand. Like in Yorkshire, enthusiasm and grit and all that, they understood all of that. And you had to try and produce a team that the supporters could recognise,
relate to.
They could relate to. It's the same in the Scarlets, the way the Scarlets played rugby when we went back there. It was speed, it was skill. And, in Yorkshire, it is about grit. It's about staying in the arm wrestle. It's about being stuck in there. And, it's about driving lineouts at times. It's about big scrums and big tackles. Rugby league, they love the big hits. And so it's wherever you go in the world. In Namibia, it was all about courage and flair, and what we tried to do was build a little bit of technical, i.e. you can tackle a bit more effectively or you can scrummage a bit more effectively and things like that. So it's building on what the local psyche is and then putting your own bits on top so people think, I can recognise that group, that team. I'm proud of that team. So that's what I think all coaching's about, as well as winning the hearts and minds of the people off the field, as well as winning it on the field, So that's a real interesting piece for me. I love all that stuff,
Class. To do 10 years in one club, I know you went through the divisions, obviously from 4, was it, right up to the Prem? Like, what was that like? Because some people, like coaches, I don't know in rugby as much, but nowadays it's a business, it's a results-driven game. Were you afforded a bit more leniency back then? And was it a bit easier to be given time to build something for the future, where nowadays it's like, if you've lost 6 or 7 in a row, people are calling for your head, and especially in football, you're gone. Like, there's no second chances anymore. You either do it or you don't.
Yeah, it's like the way I look at building a team, I look at your forming, your storming, your norming, your performing, if you like. There's an old John Maxwell's leadership thing, right? Now, what I think about that, when people are moving all the time, you're always in a forming and storming bloody phase. You never really get to a performing, norming and performing phase. You're changing everybody.
Yeah.
Or you go through where a team grows 2 or 3 years, takes 3 years to build a team and 5 years to win something. Gareth always used to say that, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think what you've got to do along the way, you've got to manage expectations, which I've done well at times and not so well at other times. And that's what you've got to try and do, and you've got to show progression, and that's what we did. We wanted to go from national, it was, the 4th division at the time, to the Premiership.
Yeah.
So we knew we had to have a promotion from 4 to 3, from 3 to 2, from 2 to 1 type of thing. So we knew, and I said, look, it'll take us 10 years. It'll take us 5 years to get in the Premiership, and it'll take us 5 years to win a trophy, which is what we did. When I came back to Llanelli, we built on what was already there and got the semi-final of the Heineken Cup. And then the following year, we needed to build a front five, and I didn't get a bit of the recruitment right at times. And, we had a lot of injuries. It was post the 2007 World Cup, which was a awful experience for Wales, as we know. Yeah. So there was a lot of things there. There was a bit of patience, there was a bit of understanding, and there was a few wrong decisions from my point of view as well, but also from other people's point of view, I would say respectfully, Mick, and it didn't work, which is a shame. And it, again, that broke me for a while. It took me, it took me a while to get over that. It took me a couple of years actually to get my head back to, what did I learn, and take, the wisdom of that and turn it into a bit of wisdom to move forward type of thing, So it's not easier, but you've got to be able to show, you've got to be able to manage expectation along the way, along the journey, and show enough progression that people believe it's going to get better. And the longer you are together, the more success you'll have. And there are some hairy moments, but if you keep changing too frequently, you go back to the forming, and then there's a storming period, and then there's a norming and performing, or there's a growth period, mature period, and you do start to decline as a team. So it's like it's going up the curve. It's trying to stay on top of the curve as often as you possibly can, and that's where you mature. You've been together. In the business world or with your mates, you'll be, far more cohesive and effective in year 3 than you were in year 1.
Yeah.
And if you're not reviewing, reflective practice, planning, previewing, performing, reflecting. It's all that stuff that, like I said earlier on about, is a process to it. People don't like it's a results-driven business. Yeah, of course it is. But you can't get results if you're not given the opportunity to succeed. You've got to set a platform. You've got to set a platform from success. What does success look like? Where are you now? How are you going to get there? And that is managing expectations and showing progression. I'll argue that with anybody. All the best football managers build and take time to build. Some have a success formula, yes, but over a long period of time, has Mourinho been as successful as Ferguson was? Over a long period of time. He's won the trophies.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So it's interesting. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong here, by the way, but it's an interesting conversation, of building.
I watched that Slammed. It was on TV the other day, and Hanson was on there saying, like, stop worrying about the wins, let me worry about performances, because when the performances are right, the wins will come, and we're not getting wins because the performance isn't right, and everyone was slamming him for it. But actually what he was saying made sense, and he's proved it, obviously, with the All Blacks and so on. Like, how is it that you get teams sometimes as a coach, and I'm not saying your teams or anything, but just as a coach, say you've got a team that might go top 4, or they might semi-final of the Heineken Cup, you mentioned then, or might get a promotion and then stay in the league and do really well against expectations the next year. How is it then the following year, some teams, you see them and they just fall off a cliff and are at the bottom of the league, and it's just nothing's working. They might go 6, 7, 8, 9 games without a win, but it's largely the same team that might have got close to silverware the year before. How does that happen so much in sport?
I think it's again, like I said earlier, right? If you think of a curve, like the Sigmund curve is one thing that people will talk about. It's about foundation, it's about growing, then it's about maturing. You've all been together, like we did in 1992, 93, when we won the treble, as we called it.
Yeah.
We did it before Man United did it. But anyway, we beat Australia, won the league, won the cup.
Yeah.
That team had been together that was coming to its peak. It was coming to its peak. And then Gareth had enough skill then to be able to develop it a little bit further so we could get to the cup final a year later where Cardiff beat us, the buggers. But anyway, it's that for me, mate, is knowing when to make changes when you're successful rather than resting on your laurels. Oh, yeah, it'll be the same this year, next year as it was last year. But it's not, because people might become complacent. So again, it's always looking at your reflective practice, your reviewing, your learning, right? What happened there? Why did that happen? And so it's always about assessing consistently what the success looked like, where are we now in relation to that success? And there might be some gaps, and how do you close them? So for me, it's that reflective practice all of the time and making those decisions to change when people think we don't need to change, we just won the league. And Ferguson, arguably in football terms, was a master and a genius at it.
Yeah.
You think of players he left go when they were actually in their primes.
Yeah, loads of them.
You think of the players he let go there, and everybody's going, whatever. Hang on.
Keane, Beckham, like they all got booted on.
But he still maintained. So it's a real skill, right? It's leadership and coaching is a science and an art. People will tell you that. The science is easy because you can get so much analysis and analytics now, statistics, quantitative, qualitative, jeepers, it's coming out your euros. And that's easy to manage. So the management side of coaching is easy because you've got lines in the sand, if you like. But the leadership side of it it's about doing the right thing. It's about the human element for me. It's not about ticking a box or crossing a T, dotting his. How does Mickey front up? When is he at his best? And you only do that. And I always, you've got to develop trust and you've got to develop respect, right? But develop trust is empathy before competency, is knowing the person, is knowing Ellis or knowing Stephen or knowing Patch or knowing Mickey or knowing whoever, and what makes them tick. Go and have a cup of tea with them, go and have a bit of food with them. Go for lunch with them, we used to go and have dinner, Caroline and I, my wife and I, with the players and their wives, always used to say, look, come out for, what do you think? I used to say to what do you think, is so-and-so's wife, Mark Reagan was one of the best signings we ever made in Leeds. And we went out for lunch for dinner with Mark and Maria, his wife, and Caroline and myself. And we had a great laugh, right? I was in stitches with him, right? And he could play.
Yeah.
Could play. He was a cultural architect. He was a bloke who'd stand at the front of the bus and people would follow him. Not always the greatest trainer at times, but he did what he needed to do to go on the pitch to make a massive difference. And his wife was a character, but she was fully behind him. She wanted him to move to Leeds because he wanted to play for England in the 2003 World Cup. Yeah. And she was fully behind him. And that's where I knew then, right, he's happy at home, he's going to be happy on the pitch. And you do as people say, a happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
And it's true. And we created a creche at Leeds back in the day so that, the kids, the families knew they could come to Headingley and they could put the kids in a creche and they could go and watch the game. Or in fact, they could go and do whatever they wanted to do during the 80 minutes. But we created that as one of the best things we ever did. Changed the parking slots so some of the families didn't have to walk so far to the stands, things like that. People think, well, he respects us or he appreciates us. And that's
I love that.
It's important, mate. I'm not saying you get it right all the time, but you've got to think of the human element. And nowadays, with the mental health aspect and the well-being, it's so important,
Yeah, of course. I know. I absolutely love that. Like, I'm fortunate I've got friends in a couple of clubs and some of the more popular clubs some of maybe the less popular clubs, but the more successful clubs have all got that going on behind the scenes. Like when Dom was at Saracens, he said it was absolutely class. Like I've met loads of the boys there. They all love it there. Their misses all love it there. They're all friends. They've all got kids, and they all love the whole culture. Like what happened and all that stuff is irrelevant. The culture, the way that they've all pulled together as a squad, and you'd have 10 or 15 couples all out together, and there would be no like bitching and arguing. Like they just fucking loved it, and like there's no coincidence they were really successful as well. Same at Exeter, same at a couple of clubs.
Big time. As you know, as Warren Gatland said in Slammed, he was always shouting that we're working harder than everybody else did. And we had that at Leeds. We said no other team in the league got a crash.
Yeah.
There's no other team going up the Yorkshire Dales and doing orienteering and going back in a pub and singing and having a few beers and all that. So we were running up hills in Roundhay, and nobody was working us. And we used to say that to the players, and we knew for a fact there were many clubs running up hills, by the way. At that stage, we were the first club that had heart rate monitors at that time, with the condition we had. So there are some things that can be a little bit sort of, you're taking a chance to say nobody's working as hard as us. But there are other things that you can be tangibly thinking, well, look, there isn't a crash in another club at that time in the league type of thing. And you can do all those, the boys in Namibia, in Africa, fire is a big symbol of togetherness, a team.
Yeah.
And because the weather's so good, we used to sit around a fire and we used to share stories and talk about the week, and I used to take a mickey out of me a bit, and we used to do all sorts and have a braai and have a beer and stuff, and just used to share and connect, and is an African term called Ubuntu, which means, I am because we are. I am strong as a person because we are strong as a team, or we are stronger together. I used to love all that stuff. And, we used to, what's a flag mean? What's a fish eagle on the chest mean? Like, what's a three feathers mean to us? What does a Welsh flag mean to us? The dragon is red, is passion, is fire. In Namibia, the flag is blue, which is for blue skies. It's yellow, which is the sun, because the sun always shines. The green is the vegetation of the land, because they're so proud of the land itself. Yeah. And red represents the blood that was spilt on the ground in Namibia for them to achieve independence in the early 90s. So those colours are not just, it looks nice, it means something to the players. The fish eagle goes through different parts of its life, the way it hunts. When it's a young eagle, it can swoop down and it's got speed and big claws. And as it gets older, it's got to refine the way that it sort of hunts, if you like. Yeah. And you can put all those stories that they absolutely resonate with because it's their culture. And those things, to know those things are awesome, brilliant.
I'm hoping that, I spoke to him briefly, I've spoken to him a couple of times, I'm hoping that Jack Spurger comes on next week.
He's a legend, what a man.
Yeah, well, I've got a picture of him, right? 2011 World Cup. I was in New Zealand and they played, and we were there. They played against Wales when Mellon scored that try from 40 yards out under the sticks. And I was literally sat behind the sticks a couple of rows back. And I messaged him on Instagram, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with him, because everyone I've spoken to so far normally plays for a tier 1 team, normally is a bit of a household name, where he's a household name that's done it for a tier 2 team, and they've never been favourites for anything that we would have seen. So whether it's World Cups or anything like that, they always would have been seen as the whipping boys, essentially. Whether that's respectful or not, I don't know. But like, I can't wait to get his point of view on the world, and like for him to come over here and play for Saracens and that, because I can imagine it's some journey.
Oh, he's an amazing guy, absolutely amazing guy. How he played rugby with his knee is beyond me at times, right? But he's one of, up there with Sam, he's one of the bravest, and Mark Perigo in my day, one of the bravest players I've ever seen. And he was our captain in 2015, and when I coached the first World Cup with them, and he was magnificent, and a lovely, lovely man as well. A great human being, and he was fantastic. I can't speak highly enough of him. He's an amazing bloke, a tough old bugger. But he used to carry, I remember, in like those old 50 pence money bags you're going to have to go to the fair
Yeah.
He used to carry some of the metal that was in his knee that was taken out by this doctor. He used to carry it in his bag as a reminder of where he'd come from. And he was, I can't remember, he's got a tattoo on him about something about the brave don't live long, but if you're not brave, you don't live at all. Something like that. He's got a tattoo on it, on his arm, I think it is. But he's an amazing guy. He'll be an amazing guest for you. He's a top bloke. Great guy.
I'll ask him about that. We seen him in a pub after they played in, I think it must have been Hamilton. And me and my mate's about fucking 10 stone dripping wet, 5 foot, I don't know, 5'8", 5'9" or whatever. And we're in this pub, they all steaming, all the Namibians in their shirt, and me and him were in Wales shirts, having a few beers in New Zealand. And we end up playing like 1 inch punch with them. So you got a like little punch in the cheek, neck your drink or something. I don't know what we were doing and what we were thinking, but it's too like, I don't know, I must be 25, 26 at the time. Just not like out of my depth, but just silly to try and compete with these guys because they could have a beer and they were hard as nails. Their hands were like this big compared to mine. Funny guys, to be fair, had a good night.
Yeah, they're great. Amazing. We were lucky, mate, because we had a group like Jacques and Tinus Duplessis, Jaco Engels. Tinus played a Wasps for a short while. So we had quite an experienced bunch, but we had a limited player, a limited depth of players, really.
Yeah.
But over the preceding 4 years, going into 2019, we managed to get a group of players that had an average age of 24. We were 31 average age in 2015, and we ended up being 24. So I was lucky that I had a really young group of, we were able to develop a young group of blokes, when we played the Harry Cup a little bit. And so it was just an amazing privileged time, to be honest, to be there at that stage. Just amazing place. It was just, we spent 5 years there, Proc and I. It was incredible and so grateful that they welcomed us like they did, mate. It was just great people, amazing.
What was it like then coaching in like a World Cup? So obviously 2015, 2019, like you almost beat Georgia in 2015. Was it 1 point or 2 points? I think it was like
16, 15, yeah.
Yeah, but you put up a fight then against, Tonga, the All Blacks. You scored a few points. Like, what's it like when you're stood there as a coach? And like you said, there's 80,000 people. It's a World Cup. You got the All Blacks in town. Like, what's it like for you? Do you sit there and just go, fair play, like this is class? Or do you not worry about that at the time and maybe reflect on it later?
Well, you don't think about it at the time. You think about how can you get the best out of, the group we've got. Like we were charged from World Rugby, they wanted us to become more competitive, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up over the two, World Cups of decreasing our losing margins by, I think it was 58% against Tier 1 and 52% against Tier 1 and 48% against Tier 2 nations, top like Tonga, Fiji, that,
Yeah, but that comes from World Rugby, does it? Like a directive of, we'd love you to try and do this?
Well, yeah, because they were giving us high performance investment, we were saying, so we want to be more competitive. So,
okay.
So what we looked at, we thought, right, okay, well, we knew we weren't going to beat New Zealand, but, so what I did, we themed some of the games, like, it was, one of them was dislocate momentum, or one was defend from structure, whatever it might have been anyway. So little themes so that you go into each game and you'd look at process goals within the game. Can we go through, 6 phases more than 6 times? Like in the recent World Cup, we were, after 38 minutes, it was New Zealand 10, Namibia 9. Now, some of the Tier 1 nations weren't as competitive. Yes, the second half, the scoreboard got a bit ugly. But even then, they still had to work hard to score their points. So it was all about little process goals. So in that World Cup, we played Italy, we wanted to score tries, right?
Yeah.
Because we knew that we weren't going to beat Italy. We were going to get close to them, hopefully. But we sort of thought, in with the sun shining, we might have beaten them. But anyway, the reality was that a Six Nations team, we weren't going to beat them. We weren't going to beat South Africa. We weren't going to beat New Zealand. But we could beat Canada. there was an actual opportunity there to win the game. So we had to score tries, we had to front up set piece-wise, and we had to keep the ball, right? And we had to obviously be able to retain our shape in defence for long periods. So when we played Italy, we said we want to score tries. When we played South Africa, we said we wanted to front up, in the contact area, and we wanted to stop their maul, if they got into a driving line-up position. We did. We scored 3 tries against Italy. We stopped 3 out of their 5 mauls against the box. Then when we played New Zealand, we wanted to make sure we kept the ball for 6 phases plus, and we made a couple of line breaks in the first half. And we did that. So when we got to the Canada game, although it was called off, we built up some confidence that we could play in an efficient and an effective manner in some key areas of the game. Because if you say you're going to go by wins all the time, it demoralises you when you get beat against strong teams. So that's how we did it. And we created a thing called the quartermaster, that in the first 20 minutes, when Tier 1 play Tier 2, they're normally two scores behind. So the game is gone.
Yeah.
So we then looked at what our first quarter performance was, our second, our third, and our fourth, in order to remain consistent during the period of time. And then we looked at the standards, ball in play, 38 minutes. So we tried to train for 40 minutes or 42 minutes. So we had a strap line of train above the game, mate. So those are the things that. So we're always trying to pump our tyres up, if you like, and try and minimise the series of low punch of little punches you give yourself along the way. So that's how we did it over a period of time, and we became more competitive because we were more effective and efficient in the way we played with and without the ball.
I was going to ask how you kept them motivated, because in some respects, and I hope this isn't disrespectful, right? But in some respects, I can imagine for some of the players who might not have played over in Europe or Curry Cup or whatever, just to go to a World Cup and play for them might be like a win. Where for other players, a bit like Jacks or whatever, like they're used to competing at the elite level every week. So winning is you've got to dominate your opposition number and not just go. You've got to win. Like, was it ever hard to keep them motivated at times, especially when like the World Cup draws come out? To have, was it 2019? You had South Africa, New Zealand, Italy. Like you've played Tonga, Argentina. Like they're tough teams. Was there any points where you've had to have a word with people and go, fucking hell, lads, pick it up. Like, it doesn't matter. Let's just go and enjoy it.
Well, what we did, like I said earlier, we knew what success looked like for us to be competitive. Then we did a benchmarking system of where we were. And then there was a gap analysis created. And then we tried to close it. And we used a traffic light system and a journey. We said, look, if you get to 80% within these targets, you're never going to get to 100 because you're not full-time pros.
Yeah.
And some people didn't have the physical. So you try to get them to be the best version of themselves, both on and off the field. So if you were 80% towards a target, you were in green. If you were 60%, you were amber. If you were under 50, you were red. But we were giving people 3 or 4 years to close the gaps.
Yeah.
They were motivated. It was basically they want to do the country proud. That was it. But we needed to know what that looked like. Not saying, we'd be motivated, we're going to work hard. No, that can be, once a win's taken out of your sails after 20 minutes, all that goes away. So we had to build a level of competency. So we took them all on a journey, and that's what we did. And they were amazing, the players. And, we had a purpose. So what do we say? It was striving for excellence, pride and identity through the game of rugby. And then we had our values of discipline, contribute, attitude, respect. So we knew what all of that meant in terms of behaviours. So because we had targets and we had clear direction, the boys bought into it, sometimes more than others and some more than others. But overall, we had the best players to represent the country in the 2 World Cups. And we didn't, we did make the country proud, and that was important for the players. And it was our job to make sure that we made the players feel that they were, making the country proud because of they were working so hard. They're amazing boys, flipping heck, men. I still get goosebumps thinking about them all now because it was such a privilege to coach them,
Do you, as a coach, someone who's been director of rugby, head coach, and assistant coaches, like, how are they able to see yourself, for example? How are you able to lead that Namibia team across 2 World Cups or whatever, but then be potentially like an assistant in another role afterwards, for example? Because like in a normal business world, if you get promoted and then go and work as an assistant, under someone, that's like a demotion. Like, so how are you able to compartmentalize that, and like how does that work in rugby? Like, because surely I would imagine you've coached international now, and like, where's the next job at that level? I know it's not that easy, obviously.
Yeah. It's for me. I left. I was National Academy manager and under-20s head coach, I think, when I was in the WI. When I left there to go and work for Richard Hill in Worcester as an assistant.
Yeah.
But I did that at the time for varying reasons. One, I enjoyed the Premiership. I wanted to go back and coaching. Well, they got relegated after Mike left.
Yeah.
They had a relegation, and then I went there, and I was the forwards coach, but we were sort of 2 senior coaches together, because Hilly had worked and coached against me for Bristol, against Leeds, and we had a lot of similar values and all that. And I'd never been, so there was a good fit there, and I respected him. But I also never been an assistant coach, and I wanted to learn about. I just said, well, I want to try and be the best assistant coach I can be.
Yeah.
I used to have selection responsibilities, I had player management responsibilities, as well as coaching the forwards, and I became part of the cultural architect role within the club as well. So I didn't see it as a demotion. I saw it as a learning opportunity to learn a bit more about myself, to learn a bit more about what that role actually was. And the importance of that role is loyalty to the head coach, and loyalty to the players as well. So to be things that, that Hilly didn't really need to know, we just needed to see the performance. Then in other things, he needed to know about the temperature in the room might not be right or whatever, and I'd articulate that in a skillful way, so that it was good for the players, and it was good for the team, basically. I loved that role, and I had a lot of satisfaction out of it, because I was with a bloke I respected, a club with a chairman like Cecil Duckworth, God bless him, who was just an amazing gentleman who put so much of his own investment into that club, financially and personally. And I just admired the whole thing, and I found it as a massive learning curve, and I was very grateful to have the opportunity to do that. So it wasn't a demotion, it was another learning experience, really, or an opportunity,
That's a good way to look at it, because I can imagine not everyone would. Like, ego and pride might get in the way sometimes. And like, again, you see it in football sometimes, where it's not necessarily a bad thing, but they might have been assistant, the main man might have got the chop and he's gone, and they become the main man, and then they don't want to be an assistant anywhere again. Then they want to just stay as the main man.
I'm just sending you something, mate, because I don't want to break the flow of this.
That's right, boy.
I think the thing in sport, right, in coaching, I hope this will make sense, but there's 2 different coaches, right? Is a development coach and is a performance coach. Performance coaching is about winning. Development coaching is about making people better. It's a development pathway into a performance pathway. And sometimes I see a lot of coaches in that development area that want to be performance coaches. And when they get into that role, they're not ready. There's loads. You can look around the English Premiership. You can even look in Wales now that there are examples of people being in position when they're arguably not ready for that position. And that's, I think, because where do you go next? Where do you go next? And that is a problem, because you lose a lot of talented young coaches because they're thrust into a situation that they're not quite ready for. And then where do they go after that? So I think the club have a duty of care to make sure that they put people in position who are actually ready to be in that role at that time. And more importantly, when they are in there, they support them to grow and develop. Like whenever I've gone anywhere as a coach, I've always wanted a professional development budget. That I want to go here, there, and everywhere, whether it's football, rugby union again, or cricket. It could be business. Like I said about Kevin Bowden early, the things he exposed us to, like Loughborough University, learning there, and learning in Ashridge Business School, which is a very renowned business school in Hertfordshire near London. Having those type of experiences, you learn about leadership, you learn about management, you learn about what good looks like. Because as a player, you become the recipient of all the planning. But as a coach, you are the architect of that planning. And it's a different story, mate, because you've got to put things together where you're a recipient of all the organisation. You then become the creator of the organisation. Two different skills, mate.
Class. I love that. Hey, look, I know you've got to shoot off, but I could sit here and chat with you all day. I find you fascinating, mate. Like, just the enthusiasm you've got for the game still, even if you're in your 50s, is fucking class. And like, I love it. Like, what's the future? Like, you know, what's next? I know you're at Leeds at the moment, but are there any like harboring ambitions that you haven't quite hit yet, or is it just kind of get this job done and see where it takes you?
Yeah, I'm still with Leeds, but from a distance now. Really, I'll still be going up every 5 or 6 weeks and doing, I suppose, a consultancy is the best way to put it, Mick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to make sure that I can create, that I have opportunities moving forward where I can help make a difference. I know it might sound a bit cliched or philosophical or whatever, but just so I can make a difference for young coaches. I'd love to be able to be a director of rugby at a club with a young head coach and give him the benefit of the experiences and support him to the hilt to make that team as successful as possible. I'd love it to be a Welsh region that can win the Heineken Cup. That would be my massive. There's no room in Wales at the minute, and I've been there and done it with a couple of regions, but I felt so privileged to do that, and I've learned a lot out of those experiences. But I would love to be involved in a region that won the Heineken Cup, because I've been 80 minutes away from one, and I've coached, I think, in about 7 or 8 different Heineken Cup campaigns and beat Toulon with the Blues. And so I know to win big games on big occasions, and I'd love to have an opportunity to be able to make a difference to help a Welsh region, in particular, win the Heineken Cup. But I'd just like to be involved in a team that wins the Heineken Cup, because I think that's the pinnacle of club rugby,
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I have absolutely, it's almost 90 minutes. I've absolutely fucking loved that. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Good to meet you. I'm glad you know some of the men I know, and they're all top men. Good.
Exactly. Look, good people stick together.
Correct.
Hey, look, this will be out Monday. I'll tag you in it. Thank you so much. Best of luck, and keep in touch, all right?
I will. Cheers, Mickey. All the best. Good luck.
Top man. Cheers, Phil. Take care.
Good luck with everything. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Top man. Ta-ra.
Bye.